How is Veed growing with the AI boom?
We're in this really cool place where AI is really revolutionizing a lot of work, and we're kind of in the middle of that. And if you look at the ChatGPT store charts, we're always in the top 10.
Can you give more explanation about how that app is functioning?
You can ask it to make a video about anything, it will generate a video. We've learned a lot from analyzing millions of hours of social media videos, and you'd be amazed by how good some of these videos are.
Every time there's an update, you're out there talking about it. How do you incorporate that feedback into the new feature?
I can look at all the numbers, but numbers tell you the scale of things, but they don't really tell you a story. I really want to learn from our users. Combining data and those user insights is really where there's gold.
There's a lot of talks about AI agents. I was curious if you guys use it behind the scenes.
When it comes to AI agents, I think
Welcome to another podcast of a product founder. Today we have Sam, the VP of product at Veed. Sam, please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about Veed.
For sure. So I'm Sam, VP product here at Veed. Been with the company for about 4 years. So I've seen it grow from just 20 people to over 200 people that we are today. Within Veed, I lead product management, design, research, and product growth. And Veed is an online video creation platform. We help people make great videos online. And right now, I think we are the biggest online video editor. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Before getting deeper into Veed, I know you have a fun story about how you got hired at Veed. So can you share that with the listeners?
Yeah, you definitely do your research. So the founder of Veed and the current CEO, Saba, him and I knew each other a little bit from Twitter, and he reached out to me and when Veed kind of started popping up, and I was like, he basically wanted me to help. And I was like, no way, that's way too high risk. It's way too small of a company. I'm not super interested. I'm very happy with where I am. And he was like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I really want you to join. I think you're the right person to do this. And basically, I held off a few times, and then he started adding me to Veed's Slack, Veed's Stripe, all Veed's analytics. And he basically told me, Sam, I'm not going to push anymore. I'm just going to add you here. You can explore if you like. And then once you're ready to talk, let me know. And I was getting all these emails every day with Veed's numbers of that day, and it was growing and growing and growing. And I got immense FOMO, and I was like, wow, this company is a rocket ship. It's really taking off. And yeah, before I knew it, I was in talks and the whole game had changed. I really wanted to join Veed.
That's a very interesting story. What were you doing before then? Well, what was the company that you were working? Where were you head at that time? Let's pause here for a second. The other day, I was looking into our channel analytics, and I noticed many of you guys are watching a lot of our episodes, but not yet subscribed to our YouTube page or Spotify. I will ask you as a favor, please support us by subscribing to our YouTube page and Spotify page, and I will promise you I will do everything in my power to make each episode better and better. Thank you.
Back at that time, I was working at a graphic design startup, but I was only there for a very short time. I think before I was at WeTransfer, which is a file sharing company, and I've been there for 4 years, basically getting my product chops, learning how product goes and how to grow a product.
The way Saba hired you, it's actually kind of the same story that you see some of these amazing founders are trying to find the best people out there. I'm curious, do you guys still do that? Are you looking for like PM roles?
Yeah, definitely. Like the reason I love this when somebody did this, it was because he was relentless, and I think great founders are relentless. They will make stuff happen if they want it. And I think that's a really good trait. And when we're hiring, definitely when I'm looking for specific talent, a specific role, a very specific specialism that only a few people have out there, I will try to chase those people as much as possible. Obviously, there are boundaries, and no is no. But yeah, I definitely have tried with a few people, and sometimes, it doesn't work out in the immediate term, but then a couple months later, a person has had a shit day at work or something changed in their lives, and they're like, hey, actually, maybe I should join Veed. And that has happened a few times, and it's been great. Yeah.
Interesting. And in your experience, do you think like hiring in a way that they apply for the position, you interview them, and then they get on board. That's option one. Option two, you chase them, you try to hunt those people down, and they're probably a A player. Which one was it more effective in long term for the growth and also the team spirit and everything?
I think it depends on the role. Some of our best talent just applied at Veed and they joined and it was incredible and it was great. But also some of our best talent, we heard through a friend like, oh, that's the one you should have, or something like that, and we found that way. So it's 50. To be honest, one thing I realized or I've learned through this journey at Veed is that very often you have very high expectations of people, and some people make them true. Some people outgrow even your highest expectation, and other people that you have very high expectation about do not work out. So it's really hard to say before people are in the company how successful they'll be. We'll do our best, but it's still really hard to say.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And maybe also they feel maybe pressured that they were being chased and there's this high expectation, and then they enter the company and maybe they're not a good fit.
It happens. But we try to, even when we chase people like Saba did with me, there will be an interview process to make sure that they're actually a fit. Yeah.
Makes sense. How is Veed growing with the AI boom?
It's growing super, super well. I think we're in this really cool place where, on the one hand, you have AI really doing all the LLM stuff and really revolutionizing a lot of work there. And I think the other side of AI is really content creation, audio, visual, voice, and it's super exciting. And we're kind of in the middle of that. Our goal at Veed has always been to make video much more accessible. And with AI, that creates a whole new meaning, and we can do many different things to make our video more accessible. So we've been doing a lot of that, and that's been really, really successful. We've been growing like crazy since the AI boom. An example here, for example, is that we made this Video GPT app. Basically allows you to make videos from ChatGPT, and the videos are made with Veed, and it's an app that you can try out in the ChatGPT store. And if you look at the ChatGPT store charts, we're almost always in the top 10. So we're like one of the top 10 apps there, and that's just one of the many channels through which we grew a lot in the AI boom. So it's been a pretty exciting time.
Very interesting. Can you give more explanation about how that app is functioning?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, you can ask it to make a video about anything, and then we'll generate a video. And what I mean by generation is we'll do many different things. We'll write a script for you so that it's an enticing video. We've learned a lot from watching and observing and analyzing millions of hours of social media videos, so that we can write really great scripts. And then based on those scripts, I will make a video. We'll find the right stock footage for you. We'll have an avatar explaining the video. We'll have music that goes along with the video. I think at Veed, because we're kind of experts in making good videos, we have a lot of creators work at Veed. We really know how to do a good video and can help. With AI, we can kind of help you create that. So it's really fun. You can try it out yourself, and you'd be amazed by how good some of these videos are. Some people kind of post those immediately, but what we see very often is that people use them as a starting point and might narrate the video themselves or, change some things around.
That's interesting. I saw that Saba was invited to, I believe, OpenAI's one of the events where he was introducing, and I saw that you reposted on LinkedIn about like a collaboration of OpenAI and Veed, which was like, I really liked it. But then when you explain now, definitely I will check that out. Sounds very interesting. I saw one of your posts about one of the features of Veed. That's actually how we met. I mean, I didn't reach out to you that time, but I saw that you're creating like amazing content, which is one of the things I really like about a guest, if they're creating authentic content. And then I was curious, like, what is Veed? And I looked into Veed and I was like, this is a very interesting product. And one thing I really like about your approach is every time there's an update, you as a VP of product, you're out there talking about it. So you immediately get feedback about if the feature is good, if people are like interested, they repost it. So let's say, how do you incorporate that feedback into the new feature that you have built?
Yeah, so I love kind of engaging with our users and people and everyone because it's such a great way to get real feedback on the product. I can look, from the comfort of my own desk, I can look at all the numbers, but numbers, they tell you kind of the scale of things, but they don't really tell you a story. And I really want to learn from our users what they like about the product, what they're not liking about the product, and how they're using it and how we can make it better. And yeah, I've been getting tons of feedback. I speak with users almost on a daily basis, but also I'm getting tons of feedback through LinkedIn and other channels. And yeah, I kind of collect that feedback. And then, we incorporate that a lot in the product. We're always iterating on the product. And yeah, it's such a great resource, basically. When we are thinking about, okay, what are we going to do next? I think, user feedback is one of the main ways we decide on what's next. And what we're often seeing is that we kind of combine the user feedback with some of the data points. So if we see a lot of people getting stuck somewhere, we can actually often hear from users why they got stuck and then come up with solutions. Yeah, combining kind of data and those user insights is really where gold.
How do you prioritize that? Because maybe a user will come to your post, and in the comment section, he will be the loudest, but maybe that's just one single user. But maybe that one single user is talking kind of about an issue which 10 other users are also facing, but no one is really talking about it. So how do you differentiate those, and how do you prioritize those?
Yeah, good question. I think it's always a tough balance to find. I think loud people are actually people that you sometimes need to listen to, because loud people can also be loud in a positive way and talk to a lot of people about your product. So we take that very seriously. We, for example, with our iPhone app, we have a channel in Slack where we look at all the reviews. And if we get a 1-star review, we analyze it with the entire team to kind of figure out, hey, what's going on here and how can we make this user happy? Now, I always say if somebody says it, then it happens to at least 100 people. And if many people say it, it happens to thousands of people. Very often that people don't have to rely on that statement. We can actually see it in the data, and that can really help. But kind of the unfortunate truth is we cannot do everything at the same time. We have to pick what we do first. And there we really look at, okay, are these the workflows that are the most important to us? Are these the users that are the most important to us? And if those two things are true, then we'll pick it up very quickly. If they're kind of sort of true, they go a little bit lower in the list.
That's interesting. You told me that on a daily basis, you try to talk to the customers. Is this something like you put on your calendar, like a 30-minute talking to you really do that?
Yeah. So one of the things, when I joined Veed, we didn't have any data collection. So I basically knew nothing. And I was like, we got to get better data tools, et cetera, et cetera. But then I realized, if you speak to enough users, you don't need data. Now we do have the data, don't worry about it. But like back in the day, I started this habit of basically sending emails to users with my Calendly link, and they could book in some time to speak with me. And that was so powerful and so valuable, because every time we were talking about, product decisions, I could suddenly kind of imagine the user sitting at the table and having being kind of a stakeholder in the decisions that we were making. So that was really powerful. And then I basically, every PM and designer that joined after me, I told them, hey, make a Calendly account, give me your link, and I'll send it to some users. And now, we have organized this a little bit more at Veed. So for example, when we're focusing on certain features or certain tools, I am able to actually tweak what kind of users I'm speaking with. But I have 3 blocks a week of a couple hours in which people can book in time, and they're often almost fully booked. So it's a really great way to kind of get a sense of our users and also how they're evolving.
That's very interesting. And I feel like this is a huge difference between an organization which they put customer first, and I was in that they ship all these features they never heard from the customer. Like they just try to avoid it, they don't check the review section of like the App Store, Google Play, none of the communities. And I have provided like advisory to these startups and companies, and it's just like you feel like to fix this, you kind of have to start from like top of the organization, from the C level, to change the mindset of the company to put customers like in priority, not necessarily what the CEO thinks that should be the priority, right?
Yeah, totally. But this has been true for Veed from the start. Like Saba has always really encouraged this. And obviously there's sometimes things that don't come from customers that are bets that we have on the future. But I really believe that it should be part of your culture to speak to customers very regularly. And if somebody has a very strong opinion on product, but they do not speak with customers, I find it very, very hard to take them seriously. And at Veed, we're very lucky because we have so many customers. It's very easy for us to speak with them. So you know, that makes it a little bit easier. But even if you're running a very small product with a very small group of users, I don't think there's any excuse not to speak to them as much as you can.
What percentage do you focus on your intuition and what percentage on the customer request? Let me just explain this a little bit more. We have a quote from Henry Ford. I'm sure you have heard of it 1,000 times. If I ask the people what to build, they have said a faster horse. So sometimes I feel like as a product person, when you're like too much listening to the customer, you're literally building smaller things that will make few customers happy, and you kind of miss out that long vision of building something which is really not there.
I think you're bang on, Amir. That's exactly how I feel about it too. But I think we found a great way to deal with this. So the way I always explain it to people that join Veed is, I want you to speak to users to really discover the problems that they're having. What are they struggling with? What are they trying to get done that they cannot get done or not get done fast enough? And then when it comes to the solutions, we got to be super creative, and we should actually not listen to the user, because our customers are not people that create software. They're not designers. They're not product managers. They're not engineers. So people can talk a lot about their issues, but the solutions that they provide are often really bad. So I will give you one example. At Veed, we had people requesting a lot of features to zoom in on the timeline so that they could remove silences out of the videos. Now that is a clear problem that they were talking about, but their solution to it was very specific, zooming in and being able to give a lot of control about this. We identified the problem, and then we were like, hey, but is there maybe some better solution out there? And we realized actually with AI, we can recognize when there are silences in the video and just cut them out for you. That's not something your average user will come up with or tell you to do. They will tell you they're frustrated with the timeline, and then we can come up with a solution that actually surpasses their expectation. And I think that's where you see really strong product development.
Yeah, that's a great example. How many product managers are working at Veed?
I think about 7, and I think this year we're growing the team to about 10 product managers. We used to have more product managers, but we actually found that great product managers that are quite senior can handle a lot of people, and that's the better balance.
And how do you keep the collaboration going between all these? And I think you're the person that is managing all these people, right?
Yeah, or people that report into me are managing them. But one thing that we've started doing at Veed a couple months ago that has been incredibly helpful is a couple of people are reviewing or kind of checking in with all the teams on a weekly basis. So me and a couple of other folks were basically speaking to every team for about 15, 20 minutes every week. And this really allows us to see, hey, there's a conflict of interest, or these people are working on this technology and this other team is actually very strong on that. Maybe they should work together. So we tried to build a lot of ways to kind of collaborate, and it's really hard to do that well, but this model has worked really well for us. It's quite time consuming because we need to speak to tons of teams all the time, but it really helps us to kind of get a pulse of what's going on and where we can work together, and where maybe we should be like, hey, you do you, and we'll see at the finish line what works.
I feel like the more organized you become, in a way, the more slowed down you become. But it's like something that you have to decide within the organization. Like, do I want to go as fast as possible? But then people are not necessarily aligned, and I'm not really sure what this guy is really working on. Or at the same time, I would rather be a bit more organized and have a couple more meetings, but it's more clear. about what the whole organization is doing toward the mission?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough balance to find. I'm a big believer of process where process is due, so not inventing useless processes just because it feels more professional or something like that. I also think there's a hidden cost to every process, every meeting, everything. So we try to keep that at the minimum at Veed, but we're also trying to design these processes in a way where they help us build better product. So an example here is users do not come to Veed to enjoy great software. They come to Veed because they want to create great videos. So one thing we have put in our processes, when people kind of pitch a change to the product, they have to show what a video would look like before the change and after. And if the video looks better, for us, that's a great indicator that they're onto something. So here we use process to actually ensure better quality product. And those are the processes that we can't get enough of. And then just, useless meeting and stuff like that, we try to be very wary of.
I love that. It makes so much sense. You have the vision and you're asking all the team members, I love your feedback right here, but then how is this really going to help us with the vision? And so many companies this day are lacking this clarity on vision. They're so broad. They're like, it just doesn't make any sense. And also for the team members, they cannot really concentrate on solving the mission. When you read about the mission statement of so many of these companies, like empowering the humanity, blah, blah, blah. And this this is like a vision statement of, let's say, Snapchat. And it just doesn't make any sense. Like, how can I as an employee think about reaching that mission? And it sounds very basic, but I really feel like it's one of the core engines of driving the whole team toward building a great product.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, definitely.
For the listeners, just letting them know, Veed is so powerful because of all the AI functionalities that it has. And you guys are using AI in a very smart and really good way. I'd like to a little bit get to that conversation. Can you share a little bit more about infrastructure, about some of the AI features like the AI dubbing?
Yeah, for sure. So since the AI boom, we've been bringing a lot of AI into Veed. We developed some of that AI in-house, and some of that AI we partner with other companies like NVIDIA, like OpenAI, like Google, to bring that to our customers. Because in the end of the day, we want to help people make great videos, like I said before. And AI can help people make much, much better videos. And a great example here is dubbing. So many companies and people want to create content that can be watched in different countries and different languages. And this used to be something that was ridiculously expensive. You would have to first translate a video, which is a very long manual task. And then you had to have people, speak in a different language, multiple actors often, with the right timing so that the mouth movements kind of match the video. And if you want to go crazier, you could even use visual effects to make the mouth movement match the new language. So this was a very expensive, tiresome process. And with Veed, we actually found that through AI, you can actually make that a lot easier. So now in Veed, you can upload a video and then pick a language you want to dub that in. And then we use translations algorithms. We use things that make sure the timing is all right. We use text to speech to synthesize the voice of the translated language, often in your voice. So we'll clone your voice. And then we use AI to actually match the lip movement to the new language. And, it's super cheap compared to what it was like. And it takes a couple minutes, not a couple weeks. So it's been a really big game changer. And I think it's a great testament to how we bring a ton of AI into the product and then allow the users to do things that they didn't think that they could do before.
And can you share more about the technicality of that feature?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to translate a video, the first thing you got to figure out is what's in the video. What are they actually saying? So you need to use, which is called speech to text or transcription technology to transcribe the whole video. And you need to also maintain the timing so that you know when what is said in the video. Then you need to use other AI that will translate the text into another text. And you can't just throw that in Google Translate or something, because what you need to figure out is you need to make sure that the timings are correct. So for that, we use LLMs, we use even more AI just to get that right. Now, you are there, you have the translated text with the right timings. And this is actually, there's loads of complications here because French, for example, takes about 30% longer to say the same thing as people say it in English. So there's a lot of tweaks that you need to do. And then from there on, you need to then turn that text into voice again. So for that, we use text-to-speech algorithms. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of providers. And we actually also clone your voice so that it actually sounds like you. Then we have the video with the new voice. We're almost there. And then the last thing we need to do is actually do lip syncing so that your lips move in the way that the new language is done. Yeah, tons of steps, a long chain of things and loads of tweaks to make it perfect. But yeah, this is working quite well right now. So yeah, highly recommend trying it out. Maybe you can publish your podcast in a couple of other languages as well.
It's a very tempting feature, to be honest. I was checking out, I was like, what if I could publish the episode in Spanish? Like that would be super interesting. There's a lot of talks about AI agents. I was curious if you guys use it behind the scenes.
We are quite keen on using all sorts of AI behind the scenes and within the product. I think we need to feel inspired by what's happening in order to kind of build AI features ourselves. When it comes to AI agents, I think it's a bit of a strange term because it's sometimes a little bit unclear to me what is an agent and what is normal AI and how they differ. But we definitely have set up a lot of things that allow us to, speed up internal processes within the company. And that's been super, super useful.
Do you guys have like sessions where you brainstorm with all the team members? How can we use AI in different parts?
One way I like to do this is through hackathons. So I love hackathons. I think they're one of the best ways to kind of get a lot of the creative ideas from the teams flowing. At the end of last year, we did our yearly Christmas hackathon, which is always a really big event in the company. And one of the things that we did there is we had kind of a workshop for people that didn't know how to code, because often those people don't really attend hackathons or they work together with engineers. But we did a session where we taught them Lovable, Cursor, a couple of these other AI coding agent product tools. And we told them, hey, you can now solve your own problems with these tools. And people got super excited. And it was a great way to, first of all, they built some really cool stuff. But then afterwards, we saw them apply these tools in different ways that they wouldn't do before. And a great example is here that, when designers are now reviewing designs, they often make prototypes with Lovable just because it's a lot easier than getting an engineer to help them build a prototype or coding something themselves. And we see a lot of these things in the company popping up. And it's quite exciting to see how the work is actually changing through AI.
Yeah, it's very fascinating. A lot of the products have one or two features which they're like the core growth acquisition of that product, or also sometimes bringing back the users. So what was one of the features that you worked on in the last 4 years that you think it brought so many people to the platform? Was it like an invite function or something, which I don't know?
Yeah, and there's loads of things that people love about Veed, but I think one of the things that we did really well at Veed is something we call building something people search for. So what we would do is we would always look at Google search traffic and figure out what are people Googling when it comes to video. Because once you know that, you can kind of read the minds of the masses. It's a kind of hairy idea, but you can see what people are looking for. So what we would do is we would analyze that, and based on that, we would plan new features. So for example, we saw people Googling podcast videos, and we were like, what does podcast videos actually mean? This was a couple of years ago. And we started speaking to users and we realized, people want to kind of upload their podcast audio and make a little clip out of it with their artwork. And then maybe at the end, they want to show, hey, subscribe to the podcast here and there. So we built that feature because we saw that was popping off as a search trend within Google. And it was a very successful feature because we knew that people were already looking for it. So we were kind of building knowing that we had distribution. And I think that is kind of I wouldn't say it's a hack, but it's a strategy that we've applied, especially in the early years, that has helped us grow very quickly.
And that's interesting. And now when I was just thinking about Veed, something came to my mind just on the spot. There's a lot of online editors out there. We're using Riverside. I really like Riverside. It helps us a lot.
Yeah, it's a great product.
It's a very great product. But one thing which is missing from all these products is, I mean, the content is, the short clips is going to go on social media, right? But there is not really a direct way to post that on social media. I mean, I'm sure there's like functions of like share or something like that. But I think it will be, for us, for our team, it would be super helpful if like Riverside had like some sort of a calendar, and then we could like schedule these clips to be published on different socials. I would pay for that. It's just a feedback for Veed. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you guys are secretly working on this.
Who knows? I cannot comment on what's coming.
Yeah. I love that. Veed is a web app. And when I was an engineer, we always discussed about apps being native. And we're talking about 2014. Maybe it was the bandwidth of the internet or the servers around that time, but at a certain time, I feel like the whole web had a massive jump to some like badass softwares being built on top of web. And we have Riverside right now. It's a pretty, I would say, hardware consuming product. There's a lot of processing happening here, but it's all on backend infrastructure. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of like Veed being like a web app? I know you have a mobile app, but I just want to talk about that part for now.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a mobile app, but web is definitely our biggest platform. It was super hard to build a video editor in a browser. So that's a disadvantage. It takes a lot of time. It is very hard. You have to get very specific engineers and use kind of the browsers to the peak of their abilities. So that's the downside. The upside is that people do not need to install anything. And that's something that we saw with video a lot. People do not want to download an app. They don't want to, they just want to Google something and try it out. And I think Veed has been really successful because of that. So the barrier to entry, which is really important to us, that is very low. If you Google add subtitles to a video, Veed probably turns out number one. You can click, you can bring in your video, and you can subtitle it in seconds. It's really different than you having to download iMovie or whatever. So that's a huge plus side. We can also do a lot of stuff that people maybe not able to do on their computers. And we can integrate with a lot of tech as well. So for example, within Veed, we have a built-in stock video library. And that is very hard to kind of get in a local product. So it's been, a blessing and a curse. I think it's the way to build modern products. I think it's all browser-based, but it's definitely tough. Yeah.
And that's very interesting. I saw that you posted a video some time ago, maybe 3 months ago, that you told everyone in your audience that Veed is now not 1 time, 2 time, but 20 times faster. And then I was like, let me see if actually it's that fast. And I started using it, and it was super fast on my browser. Not only the processing part, but it just the way it was loading, and then these components were being loaded, and it felt like a native app. And that's why I was like, we gotta explore this topic. What frameworks are you using?
Like web frameworks?
Yeah, web frameworks.
Yeah, so our front end is built in React, but React is kind of the standard right now, and there's many different ways to make it faster and slower. And I think for a long time we were really in this mode of add new stuff, and we didn't really think about optimizing. And then especially when we started talking to customers that didn't have as fast, because all of our engineers, they get like the best MacBook Pros out there. Yeah. So they don't really notice if something is not fast. But then we started talking to users, and they were complaining about it. People using us through VPN were complaining about it. People using us on like Chromebooks and stuff like that. So we set a couple of benchmarks that we wanted to hit with the team and started focusing a lot on just that. And that really helps. And now we are very conscious about, changes, whether they're actually speeding up their product or slowing the product down. Another thing that Veed can do, which is really cool, is because we do not render the video locally. We do that for the little preview that you can see. But there is a higher quality render that we do on our servers. Meaning that if you have a Chromebook and you want to render a 4K video, that would take maybe an hour on a Chromebook normally because they don't have strong graphic chips. But on our service, that takes like a minute. So we also give people a lot of power and speed up the process by doing things server side as well.
This is something I really like, because when I'm also building products, I always tell the engineers that, guys, we are right now in Europe, but there's like someone in another country where the internet is not that good. And a lot of times I'm working on like mobile apps, and I'm saying they don't have like an iPhone 15 Pro Max. They have some $100 Android phone, which is like 6 years old. And then the whole hardware is pretty slow. So we have to build a product which is fast on that device, not on the latest phone. And I feel like that's a way of like a mindset, like it's something like really thinking, not always adding every shiny things, but just really thinking about would that speed up the process. And we can even take this to extreme. Like the one example is you can use GIFs for some of the visuals. You can also use a lot of SVGs and also the Lottie file, which I'm sure that the library for the animation. The size difference is just so different. And these are things like I feel like a lot of product managers really don't take them into consideration.
Yeah, I think you're so right. Like, there's a lot of apps I have on my phone. Like I always have a new iPhone, so I'm actually not the best judge here. But there's apps where you can feel like they are just built in a way where they get slower the more you use them, or they have these really slow workflows. I think speed is a really important thing when you build products and build apps. And it's definitely something that people do not think enough about when developing their products.
You have an iOS app, but you don't have an Android app yet. How are you doing yet? Why did you decide to go forward with iOS first?
Yeah, great question. Well, I have a soft spot for iOS because I used to do iOS engineering myself. But joking aside, what we knew was that if we would do iOS and Android at the same time, we were not sure exactly what our app was going to be. So we would have to learn on two platforms at the same time, which is just way more expensive than learning on one platform. And then the second thing is, iOS is a platform where people tend to spend a lot more. In my experience, almost every iOS app makes about 10 times more than their Android equivalents, and even taking into account that way more people have Android. So you're building, it's just a much higher chance of making back what you're investing in it. And then thirdly, we built the product for creators, for people that want to make videos for social media, for their companies, things like that. People that care about that kind of stuff often care about really high quality cameras, and they will often own an iPhone or a very high-end Android phone. But they're much more likely to own an iPhone. So that's why we decided to start on iOS. We're definitely going to build an Android app too. And our mobile app is one of our fastest growing parts of the business. It's doing really, really well. People absolutely love the product. We're a 4.9 star product in the App Store, which is really hard to get to. So I'm sure we're going to go to Android. But yeah, as a PM, as a product person, you always need to prioritize. This actually wasn't a very hard decision. iOS, from my perspective, is the place where you should start and then venture out into Android once you figure out how your app works, how it grows, how it makes money.
Is it on the roadmap for this year to have the Android app?
I cannot comment on that, but everybody that has an Android phone at Veed is bugging me about it forever. So it's definitely coming.
Yeah, because one thing I have seen is some companies, they build the iOS app exactly like you guys. It goes out there, it's killing it, right? But then they build like the Android app couple years later. And then what happens is a lot of time these apps don't have the same level of features. And I see a lot of time the Android engineers and the PM working on that, they're just always running on this endless treadmill, try to catch up with the iOS app, which is like 2 to 3 years ahead of time. That's why I was curious to ask, where are you right now?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question, and I think that's something I've seen myself a lot. I've ran a lot of mobile teams in previous companies, so I'm very well aware. And that is something that we do not want to happen. So if we go for Android, we'll stock the team really well and we'll build a very solid app. And one thing that I did when I was at WeTransfer is we would run some experiments on Android and other experiments on iOS so that both of the teams were innovating. Because nothing is as demotivating as your job just being copy this app, but then for another platform.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. As a VP of a product in a startup which has a lot of processing in terms of video and AI, what are the challenges that you're facing every single day?
Tons. I mean, every VP product in the world will tell you they're not happy with how fast they're shipping. And I will tell you that as well. I think that's one of the things that I would love to improve at. I think we bring tons of value to our customers at Veed, but I would love that base to be higher because the more you ship, the more you learn and the faster you can help your customers. So that's one of the challenges that we have. I think the other one is there's a lot happening in the AI space and the customers' expectations are constantly changing and improving. For example, with text-to-speech, we were one of the first video tools to have text-to-speech and people absolutely loved it. But then a year later, people were complaining about it because they felt like the voices were not natural enough. And that's not because we made some changes, but that's because people saw other products or other places doing much better text-to-speech than we did, which we fixed now. But I think it is a testament to how fast the market is moving. So we constantly need to catch up and, get ahead. And that's quite tiresome, but also really fun.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I remember when we talked a little bit about like management, you said that you believe that getting people excited about something is way more important than any process. And also you believe that strategy is overrated, execution is underrated. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I said earlier on the cast is I love hackathons. I think hackathons are the best thing in the world. And one thing I always notice when I'm at a hackathon is that there's always some managers, some executives out there and they're like, oh, we should do a hackathon every week and do a hackathon every week and we'll be so productive. And then they try that and it doesn't work out. And why does it not work out? Because at a hackathon, what you see is that people are very passionate about whatever they're building and they're figuring everything else out on the go. They don't have processes or anything. They just want to make it happen and they figure things out on the go. That is not necessarily something you can really easily kind of ignite as management. But if you focus on that, what I see is that people work way harder, they do better work, they're much more passionate. So one of the things that I see as my responsibilities as a VP is to make sure people are very excited about what they're building, they see the impact of what they're building, and they just want to build it. And then I think they'll figure out how to do it. I can tell them to check in every week or every day, but I actually don't think that makes a difference. If people are going to work thinking about how am I going to solve this problem today, I think I've won.
It makes a lot of sense. I definitely relate to that. We are slowly getting close to the end of this podcast episode. So I want to ask you, what qualities should product managers have to be a great VP?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that I over-index on in people is communication skills, especially with product managers. As I said, I think getting people excited about what they're building is one of the key things. And it's really hard to get people excited if you can't communicate well. So I always feel like PMs in a company need to be the best communicators and the best communicating PMs probably will make it into management or higher ranks more quickly. It's a bit sad, but I actually think if you make your goals but are a terrible communicator, you're probably gonna have more struggles in your career than if you're consistently never hitting any goals, but you are great communicators. People love to work with people. They don't love to work with results. So I think communication is really, really crucial. Another thing that's really important is that people are very curious because as a PM, very often you need to kind of challenge your own assumptions and really figure something out deeply that you do not know much about. That can be a technical problem, that can be a customer problem, can be a marketing problem. There are so many places where as a PM you really need to go into the depth of something. So I think curiosity will really help you get there. And then I think the last thing you need to be good at is you need to have some kind of point of view. You need to be opinionated, you need to have taste. As a PM, your key role is making decisions. And that's more an art than a science, in my opinion. It's not something where you can calculate, oh, A is better than B. Actually, you need to have a point of view and a vision. And that is something that is really hard to kind of learn. But I think the best people that I've met and the most inspiring people that I've met, they all have that sense of taste.
Love it, love it. Great advice. And these are going to be great clips for the podcast episode.
Amazing.
Sam, where can the listeners find you and reach out to you?
I'm very active on Twitter and I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm Samuel Beek on both platforms, so you can follow and connect me with there. I love to talk to people about product, about making videos, about all that stuff. So yeah, come and join the conversation.
Awesome. We will definitely put all the links in the description. Before we end this episode, is there something else you would like to share with the audience to check out?
Good question. I guess I would encourage everybody to try out Veed's text-to-video, because if you've ever, thought about making videos, but you think it's scary to get in front of the camera, it's a great place to get started making videos. And you'd be surprised by, the inspiration you get from that. And I think everybody's better off making videos. So yeah, go and have a look.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. It's been a pleasure talking with you on this podcast episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Amir.
Wow, you made it till the end. I'm very proud of you. Comment down below which part of the podcast did you like the most and who should I interview next. Also, on the screen, you will see a lot of our other great episodes that you should definitely check out.